Hey, it's Derek Jones, and today I'm going to show you how to make this cutting board using nothing but pallets. Should be a lot of fun. Join me. So the first thing you do is find some pallets, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time showing you how to break down these pallets. I use a combination of a sawzall and some pry bars and a hammer, and usually it's pretty easy. I was lucky to find some hardwood in my pallets. I think this is red oak, but I'm not positive. Then you want to determine what length your cutting board is going to be. I went with 14 inches. Here I am cutting the boards to length with my miter saw. Make short work of it, and you just want to be close. You don't have to actually be right on because we're going to end up trimming it up later. Then I'm going to move over to my table saw where I'm going to rip these into 1-inch slats, which will make up the laminate of our cutting board, and just going through here and cutting these pieces. Now, a lot of the wood that I break off of the pallets, some of it's not useful, so you always want to cut a little more than you think you're going to need, and that way you can cut extra pieces, because sometimes wood just isn't worth working with. I should note that it's useful to cut up different types of pallets so that you get some color variation. It'll make your board look better. This is actually 3 pallets that I broke up. One was hardwood, and I think the other was just regular alder. I'm not positive. Then I'm switching over to my Craftsman planer to give it a good surface. This will take the rough off so that when I glue them together, there's really nothing there to interfere with getting a really good bond. So I really like this machine. I have a review for it coming up. It's turned out to be a great investment, and if you don't have one, you really probably should invest in one. They're available in my store if you click on my links. Make woodworking projects so much easier. And if you like my videos, please do me a favor and give me a like. And if you feel so inclined, please subscribe and hit the little bell. And that way you'll see my videos when I release them, which helps me out. I really appreciate all the support I get from everybody, and I love doing this, and you guys make it possible. So thank you so much. Planing all these pieces takes a little time, but it's a very important step. And having a good surface finish is absolutely critical to getting a good fitting, good looking cutting board. Alright, so I've got all those pieces planed now. Got a nice stack of lumber here. Now you are going to end up throwing a couple pieces out. That's why it's always best to cut a couple extra so that when you're in the glue up stage and you can find some that are just too flawed, you just throw them away. So here I am setting them up to be glued. I'm using a couple of pipe clamps that I got at the hardware store. I really like these. I'm using the Tight Bond glue, which is absolutely the best glue I've found. This is the waterproof version, and it just does really, really good with pallet wood. I really have no complaints, and it's what I recommend everybody use when they're doing cutting boards. You want to give this a good 24 hours after you clamp it up to let the glue dry, but you can probably work with it after about 2 to 3 hours. I typically glue it up and I'll leave it glued up for about 24 hours. You want to be liberal with the glue. You can't use too much, and you're just going to make sure that all the surfaces are covered before you clamp it down so you get a really good bond. And here I'm just going to straighten the edges, and then I'm going to clamp it down. And I like to use as many clamps as I can really fit on. But this is a smaller board, so I'm just going to put one set of center clamps that are going to actually hold it so that it's not too far out of parallel. I'm still going to end up planing it down, so it's not essential, but it just makes it easier. So here I am pulling the clamps now. We got a good bond, and the board looks pretty good. And I just randomly put this pattern together. And now I'm going to run it through my planer again and just get a good finish. This takes a minute. And I'm just going to run it through here a few times till I get a decent surface finish. It eliminates a lot of the sanding. Now there's a few flaws in this pallet wood, so I'm going to use some non-toxic Star Bond and coffee to fill these in. So I just run a little coffee in there, put some Star Bond on it, and then I'll spray it down with some accelerant that'll help it dry instantly, and then I'm going to sand it smooth. This is great for removing blemishes, which with pallet wood there is going to be tons. Now that I've got that all glued up, I will sand it off with some 120 grit and just blend it in with the wood. This gets rid of the excess glue and coffee. Now I'm a little embarrassed here. I lost the footage to trimming up the board. I'm not sure what happened to it. I don't know if I missed it on the camera. Now I'm using my DeWalt router and I am just rounding all the edges. I'm using a 1/4 inch round over bit and just making it nice and round. Now I'll tell you right now, if you make cutting boards without juice grooves, you're going to get a whole lot of flack. I actually prefer them without juice grooves, but the majority of people that buy them from me want juice grooves. So I'm using a 1/2 inch ball bit on my skill router table, and I'm just putting a juice groove all the way around it. This will be, your customers like this. Now I'll sand it again with 220 grit. I use some denatured alcohol to raise the grain. It gives me a nice finish. And I'm just going to sand off all the edges now and make it nice and smooth. And this is looking really good. Now I'm going to put some butcher block oil on it, and this really will make the grain pop out. It makes this cheap wood look really pretty. And we're all done. thanks for joining me. Do me a favor and give me a like and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time.